All right, in order to start our study of volume and surface area, we're going to start with surface area. I'll be honest with you, volume's a lot easier because it's all formulas. It relies solely on memorization. It's super quick. We're going to start with surface area, the harder one. And we're going to start with the easy figure, rectangular prisms. Now, the thing to note about surface area is that you're dealing with the outside of the figure. So it's saying how many squares fit on the outside of the figure. Surface area of a rectangular prism is found by doing the sum of all 6 faces. Because the 6 faces are the top, bottom, left, right, front, and bottom. Now, that is 6 faces. That's 6 numbers to add up after you've already solved for those. A lot of times students aren't going to want to deal with that. So we can use a shortcut called the smiley face method. And the smiley face method is done this way. In a rectangular prism, there's length, there's width, and there's height. Now, we know that each face has 2 of the dimensions. So what we can do is we can multiply the length times the width times the height, and the length times the height. Notice the red makes a smiley face right there? That's why it's called the smiley face method. But we can't just do those 3 multiplication problems because that's only going to account for 3 of the faces. We have to take into account that the top and the bottom are the same, so we would multiply by 2. The left and the right are the same, so we would multiply by 2. The front and the back are the same, so we would multiply by 2. And that shouldn't say bottom, that should say back. Sorry. My apologies. So now, let's go through and do 2 examples. First thing we have to do is write out what our dimensions are. In this case, our dimensions are 8, 3, and 5. So if we do the smiley face method, pretty smiley face, and we know we're going to have to multiply by 2. So first we're going to do 8 times 3 times 2. And then we want to do 3 times 5 times 2. And we want to do 8 times 5 times 2. So notice that we multiplied all the dimensions by the other 2. And we multiplied each of them by 2 because there are 2 faces that are 8 by 3. And for those that need to see it, here's 8 times 3. And we know that there's this face, but we know there's also another one that's on the back that we can't see. Here's 8 times 5. And we know that there's one on the left that we can't see. And then here's 3 times 5. And we know that there's one on the bottom that we can't see. So that's where we got those 3 dimensions from. We go through and we multiply. 8 times 3 times 2 is going to be 48. And we're in inches, so it's 48 inches squared. And we know 3 times 5 times 2 is going to be 30 inches squared. And then we have 8 times 5 times 2, and that's 80 inches squared. The next step that we have to do is add up our 3 areas, 48 plus 30 plus 80, and that's going to give us a total surface area of 158 inches squared. Now let's take a look at the other prism. This one is not a rectangular prism because 2 of the dimensions are the same. It's a square prism. So the first thing we know we have to do is write out what our dimensions are. Our dimensions are 12, 12, and 12.5. And we know that we need to do the surface area, so we're going to do the smiley face method. Now, please note that 2 of them are going to be 12 by 12.5. You have the first 12 times 12.5, and you have the second 12 times 12.5. And we know we're going to have to multiply each of those by 2. So first things first is we have 12 times 12, And we know that there's two faces that are 12 by 12, so we have to multiply by 2, and that gives us 288 centimeters squared. For those that need to see it, we know that 12 by 12 is this face right here. Next we have 12 by 12.5. Times 2, and that's going to give us 300 centimeters squared. And we can see that is over here. And then last is 12 times 12.5 times 2, which is 300 centimeters squared. And we know that that's going to be this face, top and bottom. Now, if you don't want to multiply by 2 and you wanted to just put 12 times 12.5 times 4, totally okay to do. You don't have to list both of them, as long as you can count that 2 be multiplied by 2, 3 times. It's going to be multiplied by, or that counts for the 6 faces. So now we have to add up 288 plus 300 plus 300, or 288 plus the 600 when you multiply 12 by 12.5 by 4. Either way. And we get a total of 888 centimeters squared.